Hey, what's up, all you vegans? It's Sean here. Vegans. We're all a bunch of vegans. Hey, I wanted to talk to you today about something you might be dealing with, or something you might have dealt with before, and that's what I call falling off the wagon. So, there's times when you might have done this yourself. You might have eaten outside of the current parameters that you have already set for yourself. There's various reasons for this. We don't need to get into the details. But the point is that it happens. Maybe you didn't even realize at the beginning that there was an animal product in the food that you were eating, and suddenly, lo and behold, you taste something funny, and then, it's the worst, right? You're like, I'm eating an animal product. You just kind of know. After some time, after, 2 to 4 months of eating just plants, you start to pick out what smells different and what tastes different. Usually that's the animal stuff, unfortunately. So the point, though, is that in these times, they can be quite stressful. And they can kind of unsettle us in a way. I think only that happens if we don't have good enough reasons for why we chose to have a plant-based diet. And for some, it's almost like exercise. If one small thing goes wrong, the entire habit falls apart. If someone who's eating a vegan diet, plant-based diet, eats some animal products, and then they just go away from the diet completely, I would argue probably there was some mismatch between what that person actually believed about a plant-based diet and actually eating a plant-based diet. And these discrepancies come up constantly in all areas of life. What we believe versus what we do. I talked about this yesterday, so I'm not going to go too far into it. But it's really important to recognize that, one, it's a blip on the radar. You could look at that moment of eating an animal product as just an anomaly. And especially if you had no control over it, then what are you going to do? I understand feeling bad about it. I do. Especially if you're very convicted about not eating animal products. That makes 100% sense to me. And I think that's actually okay. Because that can reaffirm, in a way, in a strange way, it can reaffirm what you believe to be true about eating a plant-based diet. So I think, again, the point being that there's ways that we can deal with these upsets that don't necessarily, allow us to fall off the wagon, so to speak. Because, again, there are some people that one small thing happens and then they're off. So what does that mean? I think what it means is, in order to be able to weather those storms, so to speak, we need to be very clear about why we are doing this, why we are eating a plant-based diet. Why are you eating a plant-based diet? And like most of these questions, it's very personal to you. And again, in the last video, I outlined kind of the 3 big reasons, one being personal health reasons, another being environmental reasons, and the third being animal love, or love for all beings that we consider to be animals. Right? Because the pushback you get on the one about animals is, well, aren't plants and animals roughly the same? Aren't we all creatures of the earth and blah, blah, blah? That's a tough one. That's a really tough one because it does beg a question. At what point does an animal become a plant and a plant become an animal? I'm not quite sure. Obviously, that's a way for them to get out of the conversation of their habits, right? So I don't have a good answer for that one necessarily, but I think if you come up with your own reasons, and all you have to do that is to ask yourself, why do I eat a plant-based diet? And then list out however many you can. And just keep going. And keep asking why. So why do I eat a plant-based diet? Well, it's for the earth. Well, why is it for the earth? Well, it's going to lower greenhouse emissions. I can do that personally. I can lower my own carbon footprint. Okay, well, what happens when you lower your own carbon footprint? Well, I'm acting what I believe. I'm being congruent with myself. In a sense, I'm not lying. That's one way to look at believing one thing and then acting another way, it's a lie to yourself in a way. It's really kind of a weird thing. So that's what I offer you today. I offer you this possibility that falling off the wagon doesn't have to be the end of something. It can just be a blip in the radar, or it can be a learning experience too. I think we can learn a lot from when we go away from what we believe and how to come back and what that means. You know, because are we perfect? I don't think we're perfect. We're going to go away from what we believe. We're human. Unfortunately, we're not all godlike, in that way. So I hope that's helpful. Let me know if you guys have questions. Sarah and I are always open to a dialogue and look forward to it, actually. So hopefully we'll talk to you soon, and we'll talk to you soon for sure. Just hoping that it's a two-way conversation. So let us know if you have questions. Thank you for watching. Talk soon.